Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedya Dravidam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Yata sarvani bhutani pratibhanti stitani cha yatraivo bhashamam yanti tasmai satyatmane namaha. So, does anyone remember where we are in the text? What page, what verse?
Page 87, verse 1, starting
Page-
chapter 9.
Page 87, verse 1. So we are starting, I think, the story of Dhamma. Did we get into it at all last week? Refresh my memory.
No, not yet.
Okay. Puneet, will you help us out?
Sure.
I can hear a bit better when the chanter is close by.
New chapter. Navamaha Sargaha, chapter 9. Dhammadhyu Pakyanam, the story of Dhamma and others. Ahankara Rodayaha, the rise of ego. Vasishta Uvacha Dhamma Vyadakanyanam Vakshyam Antra Shubhapradam Shambarasya Bale Sukte Tasmin Deshantaram Gate Tatsainyam Tarasa Jannuhu Chindam Prapya Kilamaraha Swayam Kopada Thayasi Shambara Surapatanam. Here I shall tell you of the way or analogy of Dhamma, Vyala and Kata, which is the giver of happiness. When the army of Shambara, the Asura or superhuman demon, was asleep, and when he had gone to another country, the Devas or demigods, having indeed found a vulnerable point, destroyed his army with speed. Then Shambara, out of anger, himself set out for the city of the Asuras or demigods.
So what we have here is the frame. The story frame is the perennial war in heaven between the Asuras and the Devas. So this is a metaphor of just life. We get our allotted dose of good and bad, but that's just the frame. The story is about something much more than that. So we have the king of the demons here, Shambara. And there are many other stories with other dudes who are the king of the demons. There's Bali, there's Shuka. This story, it's Shambara. So what happens is he's out of station, as Swamiji used to say. And the Devas find a vulnerable point and they wipe out a whole bunch of his army. He comes back and he's upset about it. So now he's off to the kingdom of the Asuras. Let's see. For those of people who do not know, Asuras are demons Rakshasas are also demons. Of the two, the asuras usually mean our angry tendencies in our mind. The Rakshasas are the greedy or covetous tendencies in our mind. So he's an asura. Let's see what happens.
Tasya maya balat bhitaah suraste antadhimayuh shunya drishtva tu sa swargam vihritya kupitastada lokapala puri dhamva jagatmatmiya malayam. The suras or demigods who were afraid of his illusory power went into hiding. Going in various directions and seeing the heaven, the habitation of the demigods, empty, the angry Shambhara went to his own abode after burning the city of the guardians of the quarters, or the demigods.
So means not. So asura means someone who's not a sura. Sura here means a demigod, like a deva. So he goes to their town. They knew he was coming, so they split. They exited stage right. So he can't beat him up. So he just burns their city down. Then he goes back home. Going on.
Tadrishya eva devaste jagnu tasya baladhipan Shambharena tada bhima nirmita mayaya trayah damo vyala katashcheti mahamaya mahabalaha. Even remaining unseen, the demigods destroyed the leaders of his Shambhara's army. Then, by his illusory power, 3 formidable persons were created by Shambhara. They were Dama, Vyala, and Kata of great deceit and strength.
So the devas, the suras come and they have wiped out, beaten up on Shambhara's army. So what he does, because he's got great powers, is he creates 3 super demons. These are Terminators 1.0. Now, these names have some symbolic reference. Frankly, I've forgotten. Is there a note in there about the meaning of their names?
Not yet.
Not yet. We'll find it out. Going on.
Vasanatma bhibanabhyam hinaste na vidhu bhayam kevalam sainika nagre drishtva te hananodhyataha. Devoid of mental impressions and self-conceit or self-affliction, they did not know fear. Merely seeing the soldiers in front, they were bent upon killing them.
Yes. So here he says they are without vasana and without egoism. Because of that, they are fearless. So this is the benefit of the state of Jivan Mukta. Being a liberated soul, having a liberated personality. And all the vasanas have been exhausted. There's no more any I-ness and mine. And that being is without fear. Now, the other thing that's important, and we've had this back in the story of Suchi. Remember, she was Karkati, the big fat demoness who ate people? Even though she was enlightened, she did not leave her Swadharma. It was her nature, her Prakriti, to eat people. She never left that. So these super demons, it is their nature to kill devas. So the point is, you and I also have a swadharma. The point of the spiritual life is not to change that. First of all, you won't be able to. Won't be able to. But you can act according to your swadharma without fear, without vasana, without ego. If you want more teaching on this, Bhagavad Gita chapters 3, 4, and 5. How to act in the world in a way that's incredibly intelligent. So, these Terminator demons, they are without ego, they are without mental impressions, without vasana. They're charging into the army of the demigods. Let's see what happens. Going on.
Yanmana tatha deva yatra kvapi cha sanstitah Vishnana Sharnamaschasya Brahmanam Sharanam Yayuhu. The devas, demigods, being killed thus, in whatever place they were situated, were dejected. Taking courage in a fit moment, they took refuge in Brahma, the creator.
So, these Terminator demons cannot be vanquished. And they're wiping out the devas. So what are they going to do? They don't have the power to overcome them. So they hightail it off to Brahmaloka. And they go see Brahma, the creator, the grandsire. Oh, we're getting wiped out. Let's see what Brahmaji says to them. Going on.
Brahmovacha Yodhyanta Palatvam Yudhudvam Punarevacha Yuddhabhyasa Vashat Esham Asuranam Hridashaye Ahankara Chamatkara Nunam Utpadhyate Tada Grihita Vasana Evam Sujayavo Bhavanti Te.
So this verse is the crux of the whole story. Listen very carefully. Going on.
Brahma said, causing the Asuras to fight with you, run away, and again fight with them. In the heart of these demons, the show of ego will then surely arise on account of repeated practice of war. Having caught such mental impressions, they will become fit to be conquered by you.
So, Brahmaji gives them a stratagem. Go fight with the Asuras and then run away. Oh, we're scared of you. We're so helpless. Run away, run away, run away. And do it again. Ah, run away, run away, run away. And do it again. A repeated action. So what happens to the Asuras, the Terminator demons, is they begin to have chintya. Chintya in Hindi means worry. But in Yoga Shastra, what it means is after the fact rumination over an experience, either positively or negatively. Listen carefully. In the end, enjoyment is not a problem. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, as the psalmist says in the Hebrew scriptures. Where we get into trouble, we have a fabulous experience. Gee, wasn't that fabulous? Oh, I enjoyed that so much. Oh, gee, I hope I get to do that again. That was my really good time. See, you're no longer in the present. Your mind is reflecting on the past, ruminating over that. Chintya is what creates vasana. Now, if any of you have children or maybe some nieces and nephews who are toddlers, you'll see them playing with something and then they get distracted and they go to the next thing and it's just gone what they were playing with before. Have you ever seen kids do that? No chintya. Or you may see some child, an even younger one, their first year, and something has upset them. They're shrieking, such terror and pain. And mommy or daddy pulls out their car keys and goes, jingle, 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 jingle. You seen babies do that? No chintya. There's no impression left. This is why few of us have any memories earlier than maybe 4. Nothing stuck. So we want to regain that innocent mind. Master Jesus said, "Suffer little children to come unto me, for of them is the kingdom of heaven." Suffer here is an old-timey English word. It means allow. Allow the children to come to me, for of them is the kingdom of heaven. Doesn't mean when you go to heaven you poop your pants. Doesn't mean that. Well, maybe it does when you get old. Never mind. The point is the innocence of children. That children are in the present. Children can't let go of things. Be in the now. This is what we are invited to do. Now, these Terminators had this divine innocence, but because of what the Devas did with them, caused them to think they were victorious. Repeatedly, they began to think about it. Chintya, after the fact, rumination in the mind over an event, an experience. Is everyone clear on that? Any questions out there about what's happened to these super demons? All right, now let's see what happens because of it going on.
Vasana tu pathoyam lokehi parivartate dhirobhya tibabhubhyopi prabuddhopi mahanapi krishnaya badhyate jantuhu singha shringa khala tatha yatha. Bound by the cord of mental impressions, men indeed move about. Man is bound by desire, whether he is courageous, possessed of much knowledge, awakened, or great, just as a lion is bound by a chain.
Yes. So did he use the word Trishna, I thought you said?
Yeah, Trishnaya, by
For-
desire.
For what?
Trishnaya, yeah, by Trishna.
Trishna is thirst, literally, isn't it?
Mhm.
So bound by Vasana. when we develop these vasanas, what is a vasana? A vasana is an impression left in the unconscious as the result of previously performed egoistic actions. What do I mean by that? When my mind returns to the past with chintya and says, oh, that was fantastic. Oh, I really loved that. Or we can do it with the opposite, vesha. Boy, that was terrible. I'm never going to do that again. This is how vasana gets created. Now, a vasana has two powers. The first is avarana shakti, sometimes called a vritti, same thing. The second is called vikshepa shakti. The first power of a vasana is veiling power. How do I know my mind is under the influence of vasana? Because I have the non-apprehension of my self-nature as Chidakash, the space of pure awareness. I go to sleep to that. Then comes Vikshepa Shakti. That means agitating or projecting power. And here we want to talk about it. 3 ideas get projected. Jiva Bhavana. I think I'm a person. And with that feeling that I'm a person, I feel incomplete. It's what I call the divine discontent, the God-shaped hole in my heart that I keep trying to fill with stuff. And that means as soon as I get the Jiva Bhavana, there's some goal. I want something. Only has 2 forms. It's either something in the world or I need to fix or change me. And the third element we call kartavya, the obligatory action, the compulsion to work toward it. I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, more, better, different, struggle, 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 struggle. That is my suffering. It is the vancha, the wanting, or the word that we're using here in scripture, Krishna, thirsting. Kama, craving. Spriha, longing. All these various words. That is my suffering. The cause of that painful wanting is because I'm under the throes of the Avarana Shakti. It's the Vikshepa Shakti that hurts so bad. That is the result of the Avarana Shakti. The Avarana Shakti is the result of Vasana. Now, Shankara uses the metaphor. It's like the silkworm spinning its cocoon. So you go out, you have a good time, you come back, you talk with your friends. Oh, that was such a great blah, 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 blah. Now we might try to do that again next weekend. Not a big deal, a little bit of chintya. If you do some tapas, you could probably break that thread. But if we don't, one thread, another thread, another thread. Then all of a sudden, you want to meditate, you're just squirmy, you're restless. Oh, I'm not going to meditate today. I've just got too much to do. Anybody ever have that thought? That's called Vasana pressure on the psyche. And if you keep cocooning the mind, then we totally lose our ability to apprehend our essential nature. We are convinced I am my body. I'm my body plus my personality. That's how it happens. Any questions about this? This verse is so important. This understanding of the process of my bondage. How did I get here? So important to understand.
I have a question.
Yes.
So in this allegory, these demons had like no mental impressions, and then they acquired them in the span of a short time. So in the real world, like we have to go out and excel in our job and make our mom happy and like do things in the world basically. And it seems it's almost like unavoidable. Like if you keep going to work every day and you were like,
it's a fabulous question, and it will be answered in the story. Can I ask you to flip the fan on? It's getting kind of warm in here. So hold on, because you're supposed to ask that question. That's exactly where the story's leading. So let's go back to the allegory. So these three Terminator demons have now had, after the fact, rumination over their victories. And now ego has developed. Look at us, we're powerful. And as soon as that happens, as soon as ahankara rises, so does bhaya, fear. So let's see what happens. Going on.
Ityakarnya cha yudhyanta puna chakru palayanam evam puna puna vritte dridhabhyasat ahankrite damadayo hamithyastham jagrihu yukta chetasah. Thus, having heard from Brahma, the devas or demigods fighting first made their retreat again. When it occurred thus again and again, Dama and the others, possessed of a diligent mind, assumed the state of egotism on account of the firm practice of pride.
So, because of their ruse, fighting, run away, the Terminator demons develop egoism, pride. That will make them vulnerable. Going on.
Astha vasanaya grasthaha tata kripa ratam gataha evam baddha dhiyam tesham dhairyam antardhimayayo. Possessed by the mental impressions of the state of egoism and then reduced to the state of wretchedness or the state devoid of judgment, the courage of Dama and others whose intellects were thus bound vanished.
Yes, so their courage fails. They have fear. They start to have doubt. This is exactly what happened to Arjuna in the first chapter of Gita. Exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. Starts off being a man of action. Krishna, take me between the two armies. Tally ho. then Chindya happens. Egoism happens. As the result of Vasana, then comes fear, wretchedness, and their courage fails. Now let's see what happens.
Atha pralam anasatvaste maranat bhita chetasah naiva shakta suran hantum patalam vivishurбhayat. Then, with their strength withered away and with their hearts afraid of death, they were not able to destroy the demigods. Out of fear, they entered the netherworld.
So, because they had their minds covered by ignorance of Varana Shakti, and the Vikshepa Shakti had emerged, they had egoism, they had fear, aversion, wretchedness, longing. They lost their superpowers and fled to the netherworld. In other words, the Devas defeated them. So this is what happens to you and me. Now we've spent lifetimes in Chindya, developing Vasana, with egoism and thirsting. And that's why we suffer. The element is the vancha, the wanting, the fear, the Krishna, as we're talking about it in this one, the thirsting. That's what hurts. We think I'm unhappy because I don't have what I want, or I'm unhappy because some person, place, thing, or situation out there is not behaving the way I want them to. I can't control other people. They're not respecting my boundaries. Then we become wretched. Go to the netherworld, place of suffering. Next one.
Avivekanusantanat chittam apadamidrisham avapno titi bodhaya taveyam kirtitat katha. To understand that by following thoughts wanting in discrimination, the mind meets with distress such as this. This story has been narrated to you.
So understand that when the mind, out of ignorance, begins to ruminate over the past with regret or pride, or projects into the future, that's what develops this lack of courage, this lack of ability to move forward with freedom in life, the lack of discrimination. Now, are we doomed to go to the netherworld like these 3 Terminator demons? Let's see what happens. Going on.
New section, section 2. Ahankara trividaha. Ego is of 3 kinds. Idam me syat, idi buddhi kadachana, svena daurbhagyatayne yena na bhasmapyupatishtiti. Of the intellect which wills, let this be mine, let this be mine. Because of its dejection due to misfortune, not even ash falls to its share at any time.
Yes. So as long as we are willing, let this be mine, let this be mine, meaning I'm wanting. There's never enough of anything. The more you get, the more you want. Now, many of us can suffer under the delusion, well, I just haven't gotten it yet. My goal is $1 million. Well, I'm only worth, 674,000. I'll feel so much better when I hit 1 million. See, as long as I'm in that state, or, okay, so I'm a first level manager, that's okay. But when I'm a director, it's going to be better. We have all these ideas. And as long as we haven't reached it, we can believe that's what's going to do it. But look to your own direct experience. What happens when you get it? Well, it's okay, but now I want something else, or something more, or another level, or 2 million. Bigger house, swimming pool. Be so much better if my house had a swimming pool. So we are caught in the cycle. Wanting. So yoga says, look to your direct experience. In Viveka Chudamani, in the qualifications of a fit student, we have Viveka, Vairagya, and we have a gang of 6, Shamadhi Guna. The first one, Shama. That peaceful state of mind when the sense organs are residing in their sense centers. They're not extroverting. How do we do it? After punaha, again and again. Detaching itself from the chaos of the sense objects. How? Through a steady observation of their inherent defects. When I begin to see that it's the wanting itself that hurts. And when I get the object of desire, what's really happened, desire and object of desire become one. It's really just a taste of my self-nature. I want a car. How are you going to feel when you get the car? Happy. I want a house. How are you going to feel when you get the house? Happy. I want an airplane. How are you going to feel when you get the airplane? I want a yacht. How are you going to feel when you get the yacht? Happy. I want to get married. How are you going to feel when you get married? Happy. What the yogi does is get rid of the car, the house, the yacht, and the spouse. Don't worry about it and go for the happiness. Happiness is your self-nature. Chidananda Rupaham, Shivoham, Shivoham. I am of the form of bliss consciousness. Shivoham, I am Shiva. I am auspiciousness itself. How do I achieve that? Atmaramana, that revelry in the self, that Brahmananda rasa, that juice. Let go. Wear your life like a loose garment.
Jim, I have a question.
Please.
But it's kind of going back to Chinthia. I was just thinking about that concept and how should we be thinking about that in the context of our just day-to-day life, given that like what is Chinthia ever helpful just to live, like obviously reflecting on experience, we might learn something from it and apply it in our
Well,
day-to-day life.
okay,
Yeah.
so let's say you do a presentation at work and frankly, you were unprepared.
Mhm.
And you kind of crash and burn a little bit. Nothing in life is important enough for you to lose your serenity. So one of my favorite prayers is, oops. Now, that doesn't mean because you have this job, you go back and say, okay, I needed to do a little more work on memorizing the data, when I do a presentation, maybe have cheat notes or something like that. Nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
That's not the Chinthya I'm talking about.
Mhm.
The Chinthya I'm talking about is after the presentation, you go into your office and say, why did I do that? I'm such a terrible person. Oh, how could I have, I'm going to get a terrible review and I'm not going to get the promotion I wanted. That's the stuff that's problematic. You see what I mean?
Mhm.
Or you go back to your office and go, I nailed it. Man, I am just the best guy. Touch my feet. I'm hot stuff. Just a little bit better than the other people in the office. I should let them know that probably. Hold my pearls to work tomorrow. That's just as problematic. It's ego prompted stuff. I-ness and minus. This is mine, this is mine, I want. Can you see the subtle difference?
Yeah, that's helpful.
Very good question. Any other questions on this? And again, there's nothing wrong with cars, houses, boats, and stuff like that. But if you're attached, you think this is going to make you happy. Who's that talking to? Oh, this woman, and she's comparatively newly married. She and her husband just bought a house. And she's so worried. Oh God, mortgage, and then I got to look at this and pay for that and the taxes, and if you can have stuff and it doesn't cause you to be upset or worried, no problem. But if you are a worrier, the smallest thing will upset you. Tejo Mayananda used to say, you know how to get rid of your worries? Quit worrying. We think the life circumstances create my worries. It's the other way around. My worrying makes me see life as worrisome. All right. Any questions about this? This is really important stuff. To understand how Vasana is formed, what its terrible power is. Shankara will say, annihilation of the vasanas here and now is considered liberation by the wise. That's what we need to do. How do I know my mind is under the influence of vasana? I think I'm a person. And I want stuff. All right, these poor Terminator demons, they suck. They go to the netherworld. Let's see what Shambhara does next. This is very cool. Going on.
Veti nityam udaratma trailokyam api yastrinam tam tyajantya apada sarva sarpa iva jaratvacham. All adversaries leave that noble-minded person. Whoever regards even the three worlds as straw or worthless, just as serpents abandon the old skin.
So Swamiji used to call this sloughing. In America, we say sloughing. You taught S-L-O-U-G-H or S-L-U-F-F. The snake sloughing its skin. So when the snake sloughs off its skin, what's its relationship with the dead skin? It's gone. Looks like a snake, but it's just an empty shell. So for the person who inside is a sannyasi, who has given up concern for the world, that is free. Now, the price tag for self-realization, for being sthita prajna, person of steady wisdom, is complete vairagya, absolute renunciation of the world. How do we do that? In the end, we smash the idea that people, places, things, and conditions, or some improvement in my waistline or hair color is going to make it better. Give up my concern. Let go. Then do as you will. Follow your swadharma, your nature. But as long as we still have attachments, then we will not have steady wisdom. Going on.
Apada sampada sarva sarvatrana darojaya. To such a person, all misfortunes become riches, and everywhere disregard becomes victory.
Yes. So a misfortune becomes riches. So whether something is fortunate or misfortunate is only whether the mind finds the situation conducive or non-conducive. So one of my favorite stories, many of you may have heard me tell this before. There was a Zen Roshi who was being honored at a dinner at this hotel. And the woman who was planning the dinner planned the menu, and mistakenly, the kitchen staff brought out the chicken that many of the other people were getting and set it in front of the Roshi. And then the hostess heard about that and she was really upset. So she goes up to him and says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Here, let me take that and I'll get you one of the vegetarian plates." It's a vegetarian. And the Roshi says, "No, please, let me have this." And she says, "Well, I thought you were a vegetarian." And he says, I am. But when I was served the chicken, I saw that I had an aversion. In other words, it was more important for him to lean into that aversion and bust through it, to not be at the effect of it. That was more important than whether or not he was eating flesh. So we watch our minds. If I'm disturbed, that situation that has disturbed me is guru. That's teaching me. It's a teaching me, let go. You don't have to like it. But you have to get to a point of being neutral.
Do you mean by
So,
conducive,
you
like
have a
learning
point.
from it?
Pardon me?
You mean conducive by just taking it as an opportunity to learn, no matter what the
Yeah.
situation?
Everything is an, and what do we basically learn? We learn to let go and not get upset.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
That's the bottom line. If someone insults you, thank them. Because once again, you get to look at the compulsion to react. You see. Someone has politics you don't agree with. Bless them. You get to watch your mind go, you know, oh, look at that. Isn't that interesting? And you just be present and don't try to run from it. What ego wants to do is run from uncomfortable situations. Now, Swamiji would just poke at us. If he saw us reacting with attachment or aversion, he'd just lean on the butt, you know, until you let go, until you dropped it. Then he'd just stop. Now, the issue was completely unimportant to him. What it was is he could tell, am I attached? Do I have an aversion? And then he just let go. So here, we don't run from uncomfortable situations. We stay present. See what it's about. In the end, it's just blah, blah, blah information. Here is an important point. No one has the power to make us feel anything. That was a microaggression. You hurt my feelings. What level of it? But no, if you play whack-a-mole with the world, trying to make sure nothing out there hurts your feelings, it's a losing battle because it isn't out there. Nobody has the power to make me feel anything. If I'm upset, it's because I, consciously or unconsciously, have chosen to get identified or attached. And the opposite is true too. Nobody out there has the power to make us happy. Oh, You have made me so happy. True story, true story. I was talking with someone this morning, and they're an older person. They're what, in their late 60s. And some time ago, their partner had a stroke. And what they've decided to do, which was a hard decision, was to start dating again. They got on the apps. Oh my God, went crazy. Apps. Finally, yesterday, they had a date. The day before yesterday, they had the date. This person comes over. They played. They had a great time. Person spent the night. Get up in the morning. After breakfast, he left. So the fellow with whom I was talking, who's all upset that he didn't stay longer. It's never enough. He had this wonderful time, but he was unhappy. I want more. I want more. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a hostage. I was do things like that. The point is, it's the very longing that hurts. All right, let's go on with our story.
Aham bhavo ankuro janma vrikshanam akshayatmanam mamedam iti vistirna tesham shakha sahasrashah trividho raghava stiha sohankaro jagatraye. Egotism is the sprout of the trees of birth, which are undecaying by nature. Their branches are spread out by thousands in the form of thought. This is mine. Raghava, Rama, that egotism is of three kinds here in this triple word.
Okay, so this ahankara, let's parse this word. Aham is simply the first person pronoun, means I, like yo in Spanish. Kara comes from the root kri, which means to make or to do. We get words like karma, kriya, karana, cause. So what ahankara means is that particular mode of thinking and feeling that creates a sense of I. Now, do you have friends perhaps, and when you're talking to them, they have a narrative about who they are? Or scripture will say we get identified with family, caste, clan. In our modern times, it can be, oh, I had a traumatic childhood. And that just becomes what you present all the time. I'm the survivor of abuse. Or we get a diagnosis. I'm a bipolar person. That's who I am. I'm clinically depressed. That's who I am. Meaning these become identities. Now, we can have good ones too. I love what Puneet's mother said. What did she say to you all the time? You're the best.
Yeah.
You're the best. It's a wonderful narrative to give a kid growing up. But it's a form of ego. It's a form of ego. Gives you confidence. So this is ahankara, all these stories, all these narratives that define who we think we are. Male, I'm female, I'm Indian, I'm American, I'm smart, I have a learning disability. Got a lot of money. Oh, I have to really struggle. Good at this, I'm not good at that. We have all these self-definitions inside. Ahankara. So this is the root of it all. Basic to it all is I attribute to myself. What is myself? Chidakasha, the space of pure awareness. Essentially, the bija vasana is I am the body. All this other stuff comes from that. But it's many branched, it's labyrinthian. And this is the cause of the cycle of births and deaths, the cycle of becoming. You don't have to believe in reincarnation. Just going from I'll be happy when, well, that didn't work. Well, maybe I'll try this and I'll be happy when here. We keep going from situation, location, relationship, etc. But the root of it all is ahankara. This is a function in the vijnana maya kosha, the subtlest part of the intellect, where I attribute to the self the qualities of the not self. It's the essence of it. What egoism is. Egoism is how we translate this Sanskrit term, ahankriti, ahankara. Any thoughts on this? Next verse. Wait, was there a question in Zoom land?
Yes, this is David. I'm curious what is meant by triple world. I think that's the second time we've heard that recently in these shlokas.
Well, now I'm having a little bit of a senior moment. He's going to talk about the three kinds of ego, but the triple worlds usually mean the netherworld, the world of the mains, the human world, and the heavenly world. So the way I'd like to define those are not necessarily cosmological experiences. When you're hitting all the green lights of life, then you're in the heavenly realm. And you never question if you're winning. Problem is, it's always temporary. And if you start to struggle, when you fall from the heavenly world, you end up in the hell worlds, where like the ghosts are there. But so interesting, some of the images of the ghosts is they gobble things up and they have no bodies. They're never satisfied. They're hungry ghosts. We really can't do much in that realm. But eventually get back to the human realm where, things aren't that bad. But I start to question, what's it all about? What's the meaning of life? Why does it seem so repetitive and boring? So that's my understanding of the three worlds. I find that a little more useful rather than thinking it of devas and dakshinis and stuff like that, or asuras and rakshasas and stuff like that. Is that useful, David?
Yeah, thank you.
Now, is there any other paradigm of three worlds that you've heard? Any of you others?
Waking dream and deep sleep.
Sure, we could think of that. I don't think that's what they're meaning here. Did you hear what Puneet said? Waking dream and deep sleep. All right, going on.
Aham sarvam idam vishwam paramatmam aham uchitaha nanyam astiti yo bhava paramasa yahankritihi. I am all this universe. I am the Supreme Spirit, the imperishable. There is nothing else. Such a disposition of the mind is indeed the highest kind of ego.
So this is an ego state that you can practice Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, all this is Brahman, and that's what I am. I am that ground of being, Aham Brahmasmi. All of this, I is the material cause of it all. This is the highest form of ego. I think St. Francis was in this state. And the best way he could articulate it is he had the sense that he was connected with, related to everything. He would say, brother, sun, sister, moon. His dying words were, welcome, sister death. Everything was himself. So this is the highest form of ego. And this is conducive to liberation. Going on.
Sarvasmat vyatiriktoham balagrashata kalpitah iti yasa videvasau dvitiyaham kriti shubha. I am distinct from everything, considered as the 100th part of the point of a hair. Such a perception as this is the auspicious ego of the second type. Note, this refers to the consciousness of the subtle individual soul as distinct from the physical and mental sheets, but making them conscious.
So this is the ego state where I feel asangaha, completely unattached. I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the thoughts, I am not the ego sense. None of this is mine. I am pure consciousness, ever the witness of it. This is the second ego state. First one, I am everything. Second one, I am nothing. Going on.
Panipadati matroyam aham ityesha nishchayah ahankara tritiyo sao lokika tuchya evasa. I am only the totality of hands, legs, and other organs. Such a conviction as this is the third type of ego. That ego is worldly. That is just contemptible.
So if I have the third ego state, I am the body, and I'm separate from everything, and the stuff out there can make me miserable and happy. That ego state, contemptible, meaning it sucks. It really hurts. The first two, I am everything, nothing, are conducive to liberation. The third, I am this individual body, is conducive to bondage. Let's do one more.
Pratama dvavaharankaro angikritya tilaukikau tritiya hankriti tyajya laukiki dukkhadayini. Betaking oneself to the first two types of ego beyond, or surpassing the worldly type, the third type of ego, the worldly, the giver of sorrow, should be abandoned.
Yes. So what we should do is take on a practice, seeing the self in and through everything. Everything that's presented to me is God, is precious, is sacred. Or I have no relationship to any of this. It's all pratibimba, it's all a reflection. It's all swapna, like a dream. It's all mithya, illusion. Both of those are conducive to liberation. But the third one, I'm Jim, and I like this, and I hate that, and I need this. I have to get my needs met. All that craziness, that's conducive to bondage. Is that in this section?
There's one more in this.
One more, and then we'll end this section.
Purvokte chapi santyajya sarvahankriti varjitah yastishtati sa evochaihi padamarohati dhruvam atyantam paramam shreya etadeva parampadam. Having abandoned even the earlier two types and devoid of all ego, whoever exists, he alone reaches the supreme state surely. This alone is the highest position, the absolute and the utmost good.
So after we're firmly established through practice, either in all this is myself, the self, or all of this is mithya, illusion, I am ever unattached, then we come to the place where we drop those ideas. Simply abide in being. That's freedom. All right, good place to stop. We will get back to our story. Poor Shambhala getting his butt whipped in the war. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om. Thank you all.